If you have ever tried to build mental toughness by telling yourself to be tougher, you already know that it does not work. Not because the intention is wrong, but because toughness is not a decision you make in advance and then have available when you need it. It is a capacity that is built through a very specific and very deliberate process. And most people either do not know what that process is or know what it is and find it uncomfortable enough to avoid in favor of something that requires less from them in the present moment. Goggins calls this process callusing the mind. The metaphor is exact and worth taking seriously. When you do physical work with your hands, the skin responds to the repeated friction by building a protective layer, a callus. It does not arrive through wishing for tougher skin or reading about tougher skin or admiring people who have it. It arrives through repeated exposure to the thing that causes the friction. Your mind works the same way. The mental capacity to remain functional under real pressure, to continue when the 40% signal fires and everything in you wants to stop, to make clear decisions when the environment is actively working against you, is not a personality trait you either have or lack. It is a callus, built through repeated and deliberate exposure to discomfort, until the discomfort stops being a sufficient reason to stop. Here's what makes this different from simple suffering, or the kind of manufactured hardship that sounds impressive but produces nothing useful. The callus is built through specific, intentional choices made in the small moments that no one is watching and nothing dramatic is at stake, not through one heroic act performed in a moment of crisis. Goggins is emphatic about this. You do not build mental toughness during the crisis. You discover what you built during the ordinary days when choosing the harder option was available to you, and you either took it or did not. Every morning run in weather that made staying inside the more attractive option. Every difficult conversation you had rather than deferred. Every creative session you showed up for when you did not feel ready and nothing was guaranteed. Every moment you pushed 10 minutes past the checkpoint rather than taking the comfortable exit. None of these feel significant at the time. They are not designed to feel significant. They are designed to accumulate. Because what accumulates across dozens and then hundreds of these small choices is not just a habit or a discipline. It is a changed relationship between you and discomfort itself. The first few times you choose the harder option, it remains hard in a way that requires genuine effort and leaves you genuinely worn. After enough repetitions, something shifts. Not that the hard thing becomes easy, but that the gap between encountering it and continuing through it narrows. The internal negotiation that used to take minutes and cost real energy becomes shorter. The voice that files the recommendation to stop carries less automatic authority. You still hear it. You simply no longer believe it has the final word. This is the calloused mind. And here's why it matters beyond the obvious applications to physical performance or professional resilience. A mind that has been deliberately calloused through consistent exposure to manageable discomfort develops a quality that changes every area of life it touches. It becomes genuinely harder to manipulate through comfort. It becomes less dependent on conditions being right before it can function well. It becomes more honest, because honesty is itself a form of discomfort that an uncalloused mind tends to avoid wherever possible. And it becomes more capable of the kind of sustained effort that produces anything worth producing, because that kind of effort is almost always uncomfortable for sustained periods and almost always produces nothing visible for longer than is comfortable. The action before the final episode is concrete and begins tomorrow. Choose one thing in your current daily life that you have been consistently choosing the comfortable version of. Wake up earlier than you want to. Take the harder route. Have the conversation you have been avoiding for 3 weeks. Do the full version of the workout rather than the shortened one you have been substituting. Do the hard version of it every day for the next 7 days without negotiating with yourself about it in the morning. Not as a permanent life change, as a deliberate week of friction. 7 days of choosing the harder option in one specific area to begin building the callus that everything else in this series requires. The final episode closes with the tool Goggins uses when the mind is at its lowest and the callus alone is not enough. Subscribe so you do not miss it.